In this era full of tests and labels, we have long been familiar with various personality tests, such as MBTI. But have you ever questioned whether these forms are really reflecting the real person? The theoretical basis of these psychological tests originates from the field of psychometrics. Since the 19th century, psychometrics has been striving to standardize the assessment of human personality. From questionnaires and scales to modern computational models, this system has been constantly evolving. However, traditional tests have always been unable to avoid one issue: human intelligence. When people are familiar enough with the existing model patterns, we will consciously adapt to the tests. Especially in workplace evaluations, one should deliberately appear more extroverted and decisive. In this way, the authenticity of the data has been discounted. Can the traditional testing model still meet the needs of modern people? Faced with this situation, I began to think of a new idea. What if psychological assessment were hidden in a narrative environment? The game is an excellent testing environment because players engaged in the narrative environment and seldom lie. Psychometrics provides an excellent case to demonstrate how branching narratives can be used as a tool for implicit psychological assessment. Compared with directly asking about personality tendencies, this game achieves more realistic psychological tracking through situational decision-making. This approach is consistent with the game concept I designed, tracking players' behaviors by mapping the dimensions of confidence and initiative. It demonstrates how narrative interaction can undertake the function of behavioral assessment, especially when players are not aware that the data is being collected. It can better restore the real psychological reactions. See, HeroQuest was developed as a scientific research tool to collect large-scale spatial navigation data. With over 4 million players, it provides an extensive dataset, allowing researchers to analyze navigation abilities across different ages, genders, and geographical regions. Hiding a personality test in the game environment can make the subject present themselves more truly by lowering their vigilance. I designed a 2D interactive game named Dependency Psychological Test. This is a mental model for testing dependence. Players will take on the role of a girl named Luna, experiencing her daily life and constantly making choices in the dialogues. And these choices are precisely the core of psychological data collection. The game contains 4 psychological dimensions, each corresponding to real problems in daily life. Behind each option, there are 2 scores, initiative and confidence level. Every time a player clicks, it will be recorded as a coordinate point, forming a mental map. When you choose to repair the desk lamp by yourself, it indicates that you are proactive and confident. If you frequently seek help, it might be a sign of being overly dependent. When the task of repairing light bulbs is described in words, it is difficult for people to have actual feelings. However, in the game, this task is triggered by NPC, and players personally experience the plot and some complex human-machine relationships. In the game, your neighbor will knock on the door and ask if you are willing to help. She will make the invitation in a gentle tone. This can reduce the defensive mentality of players. That's too bad. You can take me there. But I can't fix the lights either. These 2 responses represent different levels of confidence of the players and can reflect their reactions when facing difficulties. When the player chooses to give a hesitant answer, the NPC will make another invitation to test the player's ability to act. Players also need to simulate the process of repairing light bulbs through a series of mouse operations. The narrative environment of the game makes the player's experience more intense. All behavioral data are ultimately presented on a 2-dimensional chart. Each quadrant in the figure represents a psychological characteristic. The first quadrant, positive and confident, representing an independent tendency. The third quadrant, passive and diffident, indicates a higher tendency towards dependence. Players can not only understand their own behavioral patterns, but also achieve self-reflection in the game. In the initial demo, I invited 6 players to participate. The result shows that the mental maps of each player are quite different, and this high degree of differentiation verifies the system can recognize personal characteristics. More importantly, the players said they didn't realize during the game that it was a psychological test. This indicates that the game environment has the potential to reduce the tester's feeling about being tested. My goal is not to recreate a labeling test, but to create a gentle, immersive, and genuine psychological observation environment. Through the medium of games, we might be able to get closer to the true motivations hidden behind human decisions. I hope in the future psychological measurement tools will no longer be just fill in the blank questions, but a humanized exploration journey.